Now, the spread of fake news on social media remains a growing concern, especially as high-profile figures and platforms continue to shape online narratives. This follows a recent tweet linked to former U.S. President, to the U.S. President Donald Trump and his reported fallout with tech billionaire Elon Musk, which have reignited a debate over misinformation and its impact. With platforms like X, formerly Twitter, under scrutiny, questions now arise over accountability, verification, and the role of public figures in amplifying or countering false information. For more on this now, let's speak to Brandon Peterson, who's the editor for Reframed and Business Day Digital Business. Thank you so much for your time on the program. Brandon, perhaps to start us off, the term fake news gets thrown around a lot, especially in political and social contexts. We've heard the US president himself as well. So in your view, how has the definition of fake news evolved in the age of social media, and what forms of it does it typically take shape in today?
Fake news, as you say, has been bandied around by so many people. And I think if you look at fake news today, it's not just about outright lies. It includes things like half-truths, doctored images, and even satire that people take seriously and take out of context. So on social media, where content obviously spreads faster than fact-checking is able to keep up, fake news is obviously going to thrive. And because algorithms obviously favor engagement, not necessarily accuracy, false stories can often go viral long before, they can be disputed or the truth can catch up.
And I must say that we've also seen public figures like Donald Trump and even high-profile tech leaders like Elon Musk. They dominate all of those online narratives on end. We've seen their, the things that they've said essentially. How much influence do these individuals have in either fueling or combating misinformation, particularly when they use powerful platforms like X?
People love to take to social media and say, ex-entertainer, ex-public figure should just stick to what they do. What do they know about politics or anything else? And I think people forget that, these public figures have enormous amounts of influence. So when they share anything, whether it's the truth, whether it's misinformation, it's going to spread like wildfire. But with that, the saying that with great power comes great responsibility, I think is most applicable here. They do have the power to stop it, either by being transparent, correcting errors or things that they've said or shared that maybe not be, accurate, and promoting credible sources. And if you look at platforms like X or any of these other platforms, they're kind of caught in the middle, but they have the ability to either amplify that chaos, or they can be part of the solution by improving, how they label, how they flag, how they surface reliable content from reputable sources.
And here's the thing, Brandon, the recent fallout between Trump and Musk, as you say there, including the tweets and public exchanges, have sparked widespread commentary online. So what kind of impact do you think these high-profile digital confrontations have on how people consume and interpret information, especially in politically charged environments?
I think obviously we've got this spat happening between them now, but if we look, years ago when Donald Trump ran for president the first time, and obviously won, a lot of people, I happened to be in the US at that stage just before the elections took place, and a lot of people said, oh, well, it's just entertainment. He's not actually going to win. This is not actually going to result in anything. And I think that sort of thinking is what's shaping, spats like this. People think it is just entertainment and it doesn't impact how we think, but it does. When powerful figures like these fight online, it's more about the personalities than it is about the facts. And what it ultimately does is it feeds polarization, it's distracting from real issues, and it's eroding trust in the media and in public institutions.
Yeah, but what's the cost of it all? The aftermath also.
Yeah. I think the aftermath of it is, we're seeing it play out around the world, and I think really the big impact is going to be on democracy and social cohesion. People are going to be fighting amongst each other because why do you follow this person? Why did you share this? And a lot of times it's, oh, I thought it was funny, or, I thought it was this, I didn't take it seriously. I just saw someone share X, Y, and Z and immediately believed them because they've told me the truth before. So I think it's really going to have a massive impact on the way we communicate with each other, the way we are going to try to connect and work. And I think definitely an impact on democracy.
And let's talk about the structures that are meant to be in these spaces to ensure that there's no spread of mis and disinformation. What would you say about them? How would you rate them? Do you think they're watertight enough to actually make sure that no one really believes any word that goes across there?
No, unfortunately not. As I mentioned just a few minutes ago, these platforms obviously use algorithms, and the algorithms favor engagement. So whether it's true, whether it's false, it doesn't matter. It's engagement, and engagement is the thing that matters. I think, with these platforms, we've heard a lot about how they're using AI to combat this, and deal with your reports and things when you file them. Fortunately, AI is not suitable. It's not at the stage yet. There's a lot of nuance when it comes to language, and AI is missing most of those things. I think what these platforms can do is add more friction, warning prompts before, you're sharing content that's questionable, make the algorithms more transparent in terms of how and why certain content is surfaced, label misinformation, promote trusted sources, or at least say, if this seems questionable, have you checked multiple other sources? It's not about censorship, which is what people like to say, but it's about designing platforms that are actually rewarding or sort of prompting truth, not just clicks and engagement.
And like you say, I'm getting a sense that, Olisi would have to take it upon himself to filter what he believes and what he does not believe. And for the average user, Mr. Peterson, navigating social media timelines filled with news, opinions, and disinformation, what are some of the practical tools or habits that you'd recommend for some of us to verify the accuracy of information before we share it?
This happens, I think, to all of us. And it's always, someone's friends, mothers, cousins, next door neighbor who sends a thing via WhatsApp, and, you believe it because, I know this person or know this person to some degree. It doesn't matter who it comes from. I think the golden rule is you've got to pause and double check before you post. Check if it's reliable, check to see if it's been reported elsewhere, and check and see if it's, one of those emotionally charged headlines. When it comes to media organizations, obviously it's about strengthening, the fact-checking processes and being transparent when mistakes happen, because they do. Trust can be eroded very quickly, but it takes a long time to be built up, and it's built up through consistency and accountability. So, just because someone's posted a video, someone's posted a picture, we live in the age of AI. Double check and see, does it exist anywhere else that is reputable before you go and share it or post it online.
All right, that was Brandon Peterson, editor at Reframed and contributor to Business Day Digital Business, helping us unpack the complex relationship between fake news, social media platforms, and the influence of public figures. Thanks very much indeed for your time on the program.